Infrared heat in an air fryer? Is it the future of cooking or just another kitchen gimmick? Hi, I'm Meme and welcome to my air fryer series. Before we get started, sorry for my voice, I have been a bit sick this week. It always happens this time of year. Today I'm testing something different. Infrared versus traditional air frying. T-fal has introduced a new way to air fry using infrared heat technology, and they claim it heats up to 60% faster than a regular air fryer, with the surface temperature of the carbon fiber heater reaching up to 750 degrees Fahrenheit in just 45 seconds with no preheating. Supposedly that means food comes out crispier, juicier and faster. The infrared heat is direct heat, so the outer gets crispy with even browning without overcooking the inside. To see if that's true, I'm putting the T-fal Infrared Air Fryer against the Cosori Dual Blaze, a traditional coil-based model. Both have top and bottom heating elements, so there's no shaking or flipping, making this a fair apples to apples comparison. I'll be testing mozzarella sticks, chicken breast, broccoli and homemade fresh bread using the exact same steps, settings, time and temperature, and I'll show you the results side by side to see if infrared heat really does make a difference. So let's get started. Starting with homemade bread, I placed it on parchment paper and before baking I scored and brushed the tops lightly with oil. I used the bake setting, and the T-fal guide recommends lowering the recipe temperature by 10 to 25 degrees Fahrenheit because the compact design heats faster, so I just left it at the default temperature of 325 degrees Fahrenheit. I started with 30 minutes, then did two 10-minute increments and removed the parchment paper for the last 10 minutes. I did not need to flip because the bottom heating worked well. After cooking for 50 minutes, which was a bit too long, the crust was still very light, so I just pulled it out and let it cool completely before cutting into it. I did the exact same with Cosori, no preheating and cooking it at 325 degrees Fahrenheit, starting with 30 minutes, then two 10-minute increments, and no flipping needed because of the bottom heating element. The crust from the T-fal bread was slightly lighter on the top and bottom, and the inside was softer and more fluffier compared to that from Cosori, which although had a slightly darker crust, it was more chewy and the inside was not as fluffy. I also found it a tad dry. The next time I decided to bake at 350 degrees Fahrenheit in order to get the darker crust, which it did, but after just 10 minutes it was browning way too fast. So I lowered the temperature to 330 degrees Fahrenheit. My second bread was baked in just 20 minutes, and even though it cooked the insides perfectly fine, I would rather have it cook slightly longer but at a lower temperature. So for future I will stay with 330 degrees Fahrenheit. I think that will be the right balance to cook both the insides and outsides evenly. And if you're enjoying these side-by-side tests, I'd love it if you hit that subscribe button. I do a lot of hands-on appliance comparisons and trial and error cooking, so you can see what really works in the kitchen. I really wanted to make mozzarella sticks in the T-fal because anytime I make them in a regular air fryer, the cheese always starts oozing out before the outside gets nice and golden, so I thought this would be a good test, especially since the T-fal doesn't need preheating. I set it on air fry mode at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for 8 minutes, which is what I normally do, but after just 5 minutes the cheese was already starting to ooze out. That's way faster than usual. Normally I don't see that happen until around the 8-minute mark. It's pretty impressive. The outside did pick up a golden color on both sides, and it was fairly crispy. Then I did the same thing with the Cosori, same settings, no preheating, air fry mode 400 degrees Fahrenheit for 5 minutes, just to match what I saw on the T-fal. And in the Cosori, the cheese hadn't oozed out nearly as much. It did get a light golden color though. When I pulled the Cosori ones apart, the cheese inside was still melted, just like T-fal's. It just stayed contained in a little longer. So my takeaway is the T-fal definitely runs hotter, which is why the mozzarella started oozing out sooner compared to the Cosori. T-fal also had a bit more of a crispy finish to the mozzarella sticks, compared to Cosori's, which was still a little bit softer. Next up, chicken breast. According to the T-fal guide, chicken should be cooked on the roast setting, and then you finish it with the crispy finish option. So that's exactly what I did. The default time for roast came up as 22 minutes, which felt a little long for chicken breast. Halfway through I checked the guide again and I noticed that it actually recommended 15 to 18 minutes. So I had forgotten to change it. So I quickly adjusted the time, so the total cook time would be 15 minutes and the crispy finish would still kick in the last 2 minutes. After 15 minutes, the chicken looked amazing. It had a beautiful golden sear on the outside. I checked the internal temperature and it was cooked through perfectly. While I let that rest, I moved on to broccoli. Now this part was interesting. The T-fal guide suggests adding 1 ounce of water into the basket's water area when cooking vegetables. The idea is that the water creates steam, so instead of charring, the veggies come out tender but still with a nice bite. I set it to broil for 5 minutes, but after just 4 minutes, the broccoli tips were already starting to burn. So I pulled them out and honestly, it was perfect timing. They had just a little bit of char, but the stems were surprisingly tender with a crunch. I really liked how they turned out, and to this day I've never been able to make broccoli in an air fryer without it getting burnt or tasting bitter. The T-fal really nailed it here. I do love this option of being able to add a little bit of water to this air fryer. What do you guys think about being able to add water to an infrared air fryer but not your traditional one? Would you add water to your regular one? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Now over to the Cosori. I set it to roast at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 minutes to keep it as close as possible to what I did in the T-fal. Then in the last 2 minutes I bumped the temperature higher to mimic the crispy finish, but the Cosori roast setting only goes up to 400 degrees Fahrenheit, not 450 degrees Fahrenheit like the T-fal, so I had to settle for that. The chicken came out with a nice sear, but I did notice the edges were more burnt compared to the T-fal. That made me wonder, did the bump in the temperature cause the outside to overcook faster? Or maybe the hot air heating method cooks differently compared to T-fal's direct infrared heat? I'm not sure. For the broccoli, I skipped the water since traditional air fryers aren't really designed for that, and I didn't want to risk damaging the Cosori. I know some people do add water, but personally I'd rather play it safe. So I set it to broil for 4 minutes, just like with the T-fal, but this time the broccoli came out with burnt tips, and you won't believe this, it left behind the strongest broccoli smell in the kitchen. It was so strange. The T-fal didn't do that at all. Cutting into the chicken, both were juicy and cooked nicely. The insides looked more or less the same, and in terms of taste and texture they were very similar, but the difference was really in the finish. T-fal gave me that golden sear without overdoing the edges, so now I'm curious, what do you think? Which one looks better to you, the T-fal chicken or the Cosori chicken? Let me know in the comments. Besides its cooking abilities, let's see what else the T-fal Infrared Air Fryer has to offer. The model I'm reviewing is the 2.0 EY823 with 1800 watts of power and measures 12.9 inches tall, 10.2 inches wide and 13.7 inches in depth, including the handle and back vent, and the cord length is 33 inches. And it weighs just under 5 kilos, making it compact and lightweight. The metal housing has vents on the side and back, and I like how they've positioned the wire here, which you can tuck underneath this piece here, which I believe acts like a barrier for the hot air. I think it forces the air to blow upwards instead of directly at the back wall. We have a 6.75 PTFE, so Teflon coated non-stick basket and tray. I like that the tray has a bit of depth to it. It's not completely flat like almost all the others I've used. The silicone tabs on the corners are removable for easy cleaning. The basket has a little water zone where you can add about 1 ounce of water to create steam, helping food cook more evenly and stay tender while still getting a light crisp. In traditional air fryers, there's no dedicated water area, so adding water in them could be unsafe and damage the appliance. It also has a bottom heating plate which helps deliver more even cooking and crispiness without the need to shake or flip your food. And the top is the carbon fiber heater that provides rapid direct infrared heat. It's covered by a mesh plate. That small fan in the center of the heater there uses gentle heat to spread the infrared heat evenly, unlike the traditional air fryers, so nothing gets blown around. And of course I had to test it with cheese and toast. And it's true, the cheese stayed put, both shredded and sliced, making beautiful cheese on toast and mac and cheese, and they even browned the toast really well. The bottom not so much, but it did get toasted in just 2 minutes. The LED display panel is very easy to use with 6 cooking programs that all go up to 400 degrees Fahrenheit and a maximum time of 60 minutes. You can switch between Celsius and Fahrenheit by pressing the plus and minus buttons for about 3 seconds and vice versa. The crispy finish button adds on an additional 2 minutes to the cook time you set. So if I set it for 10 minutes, press the crispy finish, the total time will become 12 minutes. And what happens is, in those last 2 minutes, it pushes the temperature up to 450 degrees Fahrenheit to give that extra crispy finish. Of course, the window and light are great, so you can check on your food without opening the basket and losing heat. The beeping sounds are very soft, not loud like some of the other air fryers. And the air fryer also runs a lot quieter, especially compared to Ninja, Gourmet and even the older Cosori models that run fairly loud. Other than the very first run, there was just a slight heater smell, which is normal. There's no plastic odor at all thanks to the full metal housing. Some plastic air fryers can be really overwhelming with the smell, but I haven't had that issue with this one. But it is still a good idea to wash everything out and do a burn off for at least 10-15 minutes to get rid of the packaging and shipping residue. That said, because of the metal housing, the outsides do get quite hot to touch. The bottom is also metal with 4 strong rubber feet, and I did wonder about the bottom heating, transferring heat to the counter, but I couldn't feel any heat, which was reassuring. So overall, the T-fal Infrared Air Fryer really does heat up fast, and I like that I don't have to preheat at all. Frozen foods cook much quicker too. What normally takes 15 minutes, like nuggets, were done in about 10 minutes with no preheating. The water zone is definitely a bonus for veggies, and the crispy finish button is a nice touch too. You just have to remember to press it or you'll miss out on that extra crunch. Between the bread, chicken, broccoli and even the cheese toast, I'd say it definitely cooks differently than a traditional air fryer. But what do you guys think? Is infrared the future of air frying, or would you stick with the classic hot air method? Let me know in the comments. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this video useful. If you are new to my channel, please do consider subscribing. I try my best to bring out videos every week. Please don't forget to give this video a like, and I hope to catch you in my next video.